Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to IELTS.com. Speaking videos, or should I say videos, to help you with your grammar. This is a topic which we often overlook, but it is an essential part of IELTS, especially as we're going to look at, obviously for writing, because we don't use grammar for other things consciously. We do actually use grammar when we're speaking, but we understand where we should use these things. For example, a comma, we would pause, or an exclamation mark, we would raise our voice or show more emotion. So those things are actually used in speaking, but the obvious ones are for writing. So today we're going to look at different punctuation elements for writing. And I'll introduce myself once again. I am Trevor, your teacher, and I will be talking you through how to use punctuation effectively, and we'll look at many elements of punctuation that you would use in the exam. So, this is a guide of how to use punctuation correctly and effectively. So, the first thing is punctuation groups and when to use them in writing for IELTS. We're going to begin with sentence ending punctuation marks, which are the easiest. So we have three. They are the period, the question mark, and the exclamation mark. Remember, I'm going to go through this video with you, so I might miss a few things occasionally, but remember, you can stop the video, you can watch it at your own speed. So just because I'm missing things out doesn't mean that you can't stop and watch the video again at your own pace and look at the things that you want to practice or remember. So, the period or full stop, mostly used at the end of a sentence or a statement that's thought to be complete, and also after many abbreviations. A period can also be shown at the end of a group of words that don't form a typical sentence, like an idiom and various other things. We can use them there, but we generally use them at the end of a sentence. Now, again, I've got period and full stop for the different countries. In America, they call it a period. In England, we call it a full stop. So there she is. So, example, he will leave at 6 p.m. It's a very short sentence, but it doesn't matter what kind of sentence it is. Any sentence must have a full stop at the end. Otherwise, we don't know that it's the end of the sentence. Very important. We use them for abbreviations, approximately. So when we say approx, we put a dot after it. We use it for abbreviations, acronyms, Bachelor of Arts, a BA, Note Well, Latin, NB. There are many others. You'll find lists out there on the internet, but you won't really need this really for the exam. So you can use it if something comes up where you do need it. At least you will know how to use it. Question marks, of course, for asking questions or asking for information or something. And exclamation marks, which are used when we want to express something emotional. Shock, anger, fear. Loud, we want to be loud. But it's to stress what is being written or what the person is saying or what's being said. So they're the first three ones. The next set are related to complete sentences, how we separate them, how we join smaller sentences together, and how we create listings. So the first thing we're going to look at is the comma. as we can see, the comma here. This is used for several things. It's used mainly to separate ideas and or elements within a sentence. It's also used for lists. It's also used for numbers, dates, for salutations and valedictions in letter writing. So I'll explain those in a second. So here's a typical sentence in a writing task 1 essay. The graph below describes sales in a cafe, comma, along with outgoings. Sales is how much money we get in from selling things. Outgoings are how much money we have to spend in our business. Electricity bills, paying salaries, etc. These are called outgoings. So this sentence has been put into two things. We're talking in one part about sales, and then the other part we're talking about outgoings. So we separate them with a comma. And here we have a list of days: Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday, separated with commas. And for what we call salutations, means greetings, dear Matthew, letter, then comma. Valedictions is the opposite. It means signing off or goodbye. We use the comma there. So there's some examples. And the next thing is, here is going to be the semicolon. Semicolons and colons are a bit more difficult because most people don't use them. And when I say most people don't use them, as an English native myself, I use them when I'm writing, but we don't write that much that we need to remember every single time we use them. We should do, but most people don't. Most natives people don't. So all you really need to know is how to use them for the exam to make sentences and break them up and make lists, etc. Okay. As I say here, they're often misused even by native speakers. So it's not something that you don't know because you're not a native. We also don't use them correctly. Okay, semicolon is used to connect independent clauses. A clause is a part of a sentence which contains a subject and a verb. When we make sentences, we often put several clauses together. Yes. The semicolon is used to indicate the relationship between the clauses. So here's an example. Sales are higher. Sales is the subject, are is the verb. So subject and verb is a clause. So that's the first clause. Sales are higher in the summer. This coincides with the growing season. So sales in the summer coincide with the growing season. For example, if you're selling fruit, you're growing it and you're selling it. So the growing season may be before the summer, which means after the fruit has grown and has been picked, you'll have more sales in the summer. So it links the two things together. Another example is there is subject verb. This is what we call a phantom subject, but we won't go into that. There is never a good time to quit your job. Most people insure. Most people subject, insure is the verb. So there's your second clause. They have lined up another position before they give notice. So these things, this sentence here tells us more about this. So they're connected. There's got to be some kind of connection. You can't have completely different information in here for two parts of a clause. Third one, I believe that going to university enhances your job opportunities. Employers look for this in most job applicants. So there's our first clause. I'm talking about this, and then I link it up to this. So these two clauses are related to each other. They have one sort of complements the other. Okay, the other one you can look on your own, you can read on your own. But please ensure that you know how to use semicolons correctly before you attempt them in the exams. Practice and practice. The structures are not that difficult, so once you've practiced several times and you understand it, you should be able to do it. Now we're going to cover the colon. Colon has 4 uses. The first is after a word introducing an explanation, an example, or a series. The second is between independent clauses, when the second clause explains the first clause, similar to a semicolon. The third use is for emphasis, and the fourth use is before quotations. As you can see here is a series: politics, philosophy, sociology, economics. They're all subjects. Many students study 4 subjects: politics, philosophy, sociology, economics. They could be a list of anything. And here, connecting ideas together, independent clause. I didn't manage. There's a clause. It had already left. There's a clause. So these 2 clauses go together because it's telling us this is explaining what happened after this. I didn't manage to get the bus. It had already left. They go together. This one explains why I didn't get the bus. So the colon here can connect the 2 ideas together. And then the next one is emphasis. There was one thing she loved more than any other: her car. So she loved this thing more than any other of her possessions or her things, her car. Not used often, but can be used. And the final one is before a quotation. So here's the quotation: the next time I stand up here, I will have answers to these questions. The minister, politician. This is what he said. We put the colon before we put the quotation mark. So there's some examples. You probably won't need quotation marks in the exam in IELTS, but it's good information for you to know. So the next thing is apostrophes, dashes and hyphens. Apostrophes are used to indicate possession. They can be used in both singular and plural forms. They're also used to indicate when letters are missing from words. Okay, so here we've got a sentence: the boys' books. We have the apostrophe here before the S. That tells me it's one boy. The boys' books were left in the library. The books don't change. They're plural. There's more than one book. It doesn't matter. The second sentence says the boys' books. The apostrophe is after the S. That means there's more than one boy. So there could be 3 or 4 boys. The boys' books were in the library. The boys' books were in the library. Even though it sounds exactly the same, we know from the spelling, this is one boy, this is more than one boy. So apostrophes. The meaning, which is often translated in other language, possibly in your language, the books of the boy. That's how many other languages say it, but in English we don't say it like that, because if it's people, we always use this form. If it's objects, we can use the of the, but if it's people, we use apostrophes like this. And then, of course, here we have he is, they are, wasn't. These are used, obviously, we use an apostrophe. This means that letters are removed. And as we can see, he is, they are, was not. You should know this, but again, apostrophes must be put in here. On another note, several nouns change when we go from singular to plural, so don't forget that. Person becomes people, man becomes men, mouse becomes mice. So we would say the person's books, the people's books. We don't change that here because the word has changed. But obviously some of this you should know, but it's definitely things you need to take note of because they will all affect your score. Every time you get something wrong, it will affect your score. Maybe not by too much, but if you accumulate mistakes, you make more and more and more mistakes of the same thing, then it will affect you. 1 or 2 mistakes is not a problem. Okay, the next thing is dashes and hyphens. Dashes, there are 2 types of dashes, an N dash and an M dash. One is longer than the other, but most people don't even notice the difference. It says most people do not know the difference. As a teacher, I know the difference, but most people don't, because they don't need to. An N dash is longer than normal, used for indicating range. 1938 to 1945, London to Paris. 9 to 5 work. M dashes are slightly longer. They can be used instead of a colon or a comma for emphasis and better readability. It means it separates words that are a part of another set of words. It keeps them together, but it shows a stress. She swam in her wedding ring and it is now lost forever. So that gives you a kind of a pause there. Again, you won't really need this in the exam. You will probably be using the N dash because you'll be doing things like this. So the N dash is what you should focus on. The M dash you won't need. And of course the hyphen. The hyphen is used to join words together to create compound words, what we call. Compound means mixing things together. Part-time job, back-to-back classes, a family-owned business. There are hundreds and hundreds of compound words. Some of them don't use hyphens, but most of them do. So find a list and look at them and check. I will put a list below here. I must remember to put a list below here so you can have a look at words that use hyphens. It doesn't really matter, again, for speaking, it doesn't matter. This is only purely for writing. Okay, let's go on to our next one. Okay, the final thing to cover is the use of capitals. Most people ignore these and think, I know this, but you'll be surprised how often people forget the rules of use. Therefore, we're going to cover them here. Now, just one thing. I put a capital here and a capital here. That's not how it should be. This is just the way PowerPoint inserts a capital letter sometimes at the beginning. I just forgot to change it. So, 12 different situations where we use capitals. At the beginning of a sentence, we've already talked about that. A full stop must be preceded to show it's a new sentence. If you don't put a full stop at the end of the last sentence, we don't know it's a new sentence. So the full stop before is very important. So, names of countries, cities, oceans, rivers, famous landmarks, nationalities, seas. So, that was not supposed to go there, but never mind. England, country, New York, city, Boris Johnson, that's the Prime Minister of England. People, the Atlantic Ocean, ocean. The Eiffel Tower in Paris. It's a famous landmark, just like the Great Wall of China, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. There are hundreds of famous landmarks around the world. Nationalities, German, and seas, the Red Sea. So all of these things, when you're writing them, they must have capital letters. There are other things which are proper nouns. Now, if you're not sure what proper nouns are, all you need to do is search on the internet, key in proper nouns, and you will find many, many more. These things here are proper nouns because they have capital letters, but there are different proper noun groups. The pronoun I. When we're using I, we always capitalize it. We don't need to capitalize they, you, we, etc. But I, we don't put a small I. We always put a capital I when we're writing. You should know this. Names of companies, Nike, Microsoft, millions more. Some companies don't have a capital letter, but it's part of their advertising or their image. eBay, that's particularly done on purpose. iPhone. So many companies have this kind of thing, but some companies will begin with small letters, but that's just done for their company image. Titles, Mr., Mrs., Sir, Lord, Major, Captain. Politics, President Obama, Senator, Congressman. Family relationships, Grandma Jane, Uncle Stephen, Aunt Mabel. If we're just using aunt or uncle, we don't use a capital letter. So, for example, my aunt lives in London. Now, I didn't say Aunt Jane or Aunt whatever, so we don't use capitals when we don't use the name. My aunt or my auntie. My grandmother, that would be a small letter because I didn't say her name. Books, songs, works of art, newspapers. Brave New World is a book. You're Beautiful is the name of a song. The Mona Lisa, a famous painting in Paris. The Times, a famous newspaper in England and in America, because they have the New York Times, the Chicago Times. Days and months, Wednesday, August. Sometimes we use seasons, but not everyone uses them. There is a rule, but it's not that important, and it varies between countries. Holidays, Easter, Christmas, New Year. Time periods, Stone Age, Prehistoric Age, the Bronze Age, the Renaissance. So any period of time in history, we must use a capital letter. The Prehistoric Age is when the dinosaurs were around, so we would say. Acronyms, NASA, North American Space Agency, DOB, date of birth. POTUS, which has emerged recently, President of the United States. These are called acronyms. We always put these in capital letters. There are hundreds and hundreds of them. So don't worry too much, but your essay might have one. If you have to put an acronym, or you know one you want to put in your essay, then make sure it's in capitals. You will need to remember some of these things for the exam, but when you're practicing writing, have a list of some of these things next to you. And as you write, look at your list. Oh yes, I must put that in. The more you do that, the more you will remember, and it will build up your knowledge. Okay. There are more punctuation indicators that are used in English, but you don't need them for the IELTS exam. There is about a dozen more, but you don't really need them. In fact, you don't need them. That's why they're not included. So if you want to visit our website, www.dumagettiielts.com, for exercises, and you can also book lessons with myself. And you can visit our course At the moment we have a grammar course that is complete, and you can go to there and you can sign on for our grammar course, and we also having shortly a 10-hour and 20-hour IELTS course. So have a look there, and if you want to, you can sign up. So it's the end of the video. I'm going to put several links to some of the exercises that you can use for some of the things we've done in this video, some of the things we've covered. So I know this is a long video, but it's the only one that I'm going to do on punctuation because it covers everything. So take a break, watch some of it, take a break, watch the part you want, go away and practice, then come back and watch a different part and again practice that. You don't have to watch the video all at once. You can watch it the first time just to understand what it covers, and then you can watch it in chunks because it is a long video, and for some people they won't take everything in. So take it slowly. That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to do it. The main goal is for you to understand it. Many people study very quickly thinking that's the best way, because if I study it then it's finished. But the only way to study is study so you understand something. If you don't, it's no good. Okay, so thank you for your time. I hope this is useful for you. If you have any comments on the video would be very helpful, because that will tell me if I'm doing things well, or if you'd like me to change the way I do things or put other information in, or give more examples, or whatever you say would be very helpful. Okay, positive and negative. So thank you for your time, and good luck in your exam if you're taking it soon. And if you're not taking it soon, please come to our site and use the information there. We have lots and lots of IELTS videos on our YouTube channel, but also we have lots of material and practice things in our websites. Thank you, and see you in the next video.